Chapter 1, The Wish. Bruno was a young boy with a big dream. He had always been fascinated by the stars, the planets, and the mysteries of the universe. Every night, he would gaze up at the sky, wondering what lay beyond the reaches of Earth. One day, on his birthday, Bruno closed his eyes and made a wish. He wished with all his heart to become an astronaut and to fly into space, to see the stars up close and explore the vast unknown. As the day drew to a close, Bruno went to bed, feeling happy and content. Little did he know that his wish was about to come true in a way he could never have imagined. In the middle of the night, as he slept, a strange figure appeared at the foot of his bed. It was a wizard, with a long beard and a twinkle in his eye. "Bruno," the wizard said, "I have come to grant your wish." Bruno sat up in bed, rubbing his eyes in disbelief. "My wish? How did you know?" The wizard smiled. "I am a wizard, Bruno. I know all sorts of things, and I am here to take you on an adventure." Bruno's heart leapt with excitement. "An adventure? Where?" The wizard grinned. "To the stars, Bruno, to the stars." And with a wave of his wand, the wizard whisked Bruno away into the dark, endless expanse of space. Chapter 2, Blast Off. Bruno couldn't believe what was happening. One moment he was in his bed, and the next he was hurtling through space at an incredible speed. He clung to the wizard's cloak, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. As they flew deeper into space, Bruno looked out the window of the spacecraft and gasped. He could see the Earth below, a beautiful blue and green orb surrounded by the blackness of space. He watched as the planet grew smaller and smaller, until it was just a tiny speck in the distance. The wizard noticed Bruno's amazement and chuckled. "Yes, space is a wondrous place," he said, "and we are just getting started." Bruno felt a surge of excitement in his chest. He had always dreamed of exploring the universe, and now he was doing just that. He couldn't wait to see what other wonders lay ahead. Suddenly, he heard a loud noise and felt a jolt. The spacecraft was shaking, and he clung to the wizard's cloak even tighter. "What's happening?" he shouted. The wizard looked concerned. "We've hit some turbulence," he said. "Hold on tight, Bruno, we're about to blast off." With a deafening roar, the spacecraft shot forward, faster than Bruno had ever imagined possible. He felt a rush of wind in his face as they hurtled through space, leaving a trail of stardust behind them. Bruno couldn't help but laugh with joy. This was the adventure of a lifetime. And he was ready for anything. Chapter 3, A New Planet. After what felt like hours of flying through space, the wizard finally slowed the spacecraft down and landed it on a strange planet. Bruno looked out the window and was amazed by what he saw. The planet was like nothing he had ever seen before. The sky was a deep shade of purple, and the trees were tall and thin with leaves that glowed in the dark. The wizard opened the door of the spacecraft, and Bruno stepped out, taking in the sights and smells of the new planet. He looked up at the sky and gasped. The stars were so close, he felt like he could reach out and touch them. The wizard placed a hand on Bruno's shoulder. "Welcome to the planet of the Naxians," he said. "They are a kind and intelligent race, and I think you'll find them very interesting." Bruno followed the wizard through the forest, taking in the strange plants and animals they passed. After a while, they arrived at a clearing, where they found a group of Naxians gathered around a fire. The Naxians were tall, with skin that glowed in the dark like the leaves of the trees. They had long, thin arms and legs and large, expressive eyes. Bruno felt a little nervous as he approached them, but they welcomed him with open arms. "Welcome, traveler," said the leader of the Naxians. "We are pleased to meet you. Please, sit with us and share a meal." Bruno sat down with the Naxians and was surprised to find that they spoke a language he could understand. They shared a meal of strange fruits and vegetables, and Bruno told them all about his adventure so far. The Naxians listened intently, and Bruno felt like he had made new friends. Chapter 4, Meeting the Aliens. The next day, the wizard took Bruno on a tour of the planet. As they walked through the forest, they came across a group of aliens who were unlike anything Bruno had ever seen before. These aliens were small and round, with big, curious eyes that blinked rapidly. They had long, slender fingers and toes, and they moved with a strange, bouncing motion. The aliens seemed friendly enough, and they approached Bruno and the wizard with curiosity. Bruno was a little nervous at first, but he soon realized that they were harmless. The aliens were fascinated by Bruno and his spacecraft, and they followed him around, examining every inch of the ship. Bruno was amazed by their intelligence and their ability to communicate with each other through a series of clicks and whistles. As they continued on their journey, Bruno and the wizard came across more and more strange creatures, each more fascinating than the last. They saw giant, lumbering beasts that seemed to be made entirely of crystal, and tiny, insect-like creatures that glowed with an inner light. Bruno couldn't believe his luck. He had always dreamed of exploring the universe, and now he was doing just that. He was meeting new friends and seeing things that no one on Earth had ever seen before. Chapter 5: The Council of Elders. As Bruno explored the planet, he learned more about the Naxians and their way of life. He discovered that they lived in a communal society, where everyone worked together for the good of the community. They had a deep respect for nature and the other creatures that lived on their planet. One day, the wizard took Bruno to a large building at the center of the Naxian village. This building was the home of the Council of Elders, the wise leaders of the Naxian people. The wizard explained that the council had invited Bruno to speak with them. Bruno was nervous as he entered the building. The Council of Elders was a group of the most respected and revered members of Naxian society, and Bruno knew that they would be judging him carefully. The council was made up of 7 Naxians, each one more wise and learned than the last. They sat on a raised platform, looking down on Bruno as he entered the room. One of the elders spoke first. "Welcome, Bruno," she said. "We have heard of your travels through the universe, and we are eager to learn more about your world." Bruno told the elders everything he could about Earth, its history, and its people. He told them about the many different cultures and societies that existed on his home planet, and about the many different languages that people spoke. The elders listened intently, asking questions and making notes as Bruno spoke. When he was finished, they conferred with each other in hushed tones. Finally, one of the elders spoke. "Bruno," she said, "we are impressed with your knowledge and your bravery. You have traveled far from your home planet, and you have shown great respect for our world and our people. We would like to make you an honorary member of our community." Bruno was overcome with emotion. He had never felt so honored in his life. He knew that this was a moment he would never forget, and that he would always cherish the memory of his time with the Naxians. Chapter 6: Learning the Language. After Bruno was made an honorary member of the Naxian community, he was eager to learn more about their way of life. He was fascinated by their language, which consisted of a series of clicks, whistles, and other strange sounds. The Naxians were patient teachers, and they spent hours with Bruno, teaching him the basics of their language. At first, it was difficult for Bruno to wrap his tongue around the strange sounds, but with practice, he began to get the hang of it. As he learned more about the Naxian language, Bruno discovered that it was a beautiful and complex language. Each sound had a specific meaning, and the way in which the sounds were arranged could convey subtle nuances of meaning that were difficult to translate into any other language. With the help of the Naxians, Bruno became fluent in their language, and he was able to communicate with them on a much deeper level. He learned more about their culture, their traditions, and their values, and he gained a deep appreciation for their way of life. Bruno knew that he would never forget his time with the Naxians, and he was grateful for the opportunity to learn from them. He knew that the knowledge and wisdom he had gained would stay with him for the rest of his life. Chapter 7: Sharing Knowledge. As Bruno continued to learn more about the Naxians, he realized that there was much he could share with them as well. He knew that the knowledge he had gained from his travels through the universe could be of great value to the Naxians, who were eager to learn about other worlds and cultures. So, Bruno began to share his knowledge with the Naxians. He told them about the many different planets he had visited, the strange creatures he had encountered, and the many different cultures he had seen. The Naxians were fascinated by Bruno's stories, and they asked him many questions about the places he had been and the things he had seen. Bruno was happy to share his knowledge, and he was pleased to see the Naxians learning and growing as they absorbed his teachings. In turn, the Naxians shared their own knowledge with Bruno. They told him about the plants and animals that lived on their planet, the ways in which they had learned to harness the power of the sun and the wind, and the secrets of their ancient culture. Bruno was amazed by the depth of knowledge that the Naxians possessed, and he felt grateful to be able to learn from them as well. he knew that this exchange of knowledge and ideas was one of the most valuable experiences of his life. Chapter 8, The Dark Secret. One day, while Bruno was exploring the Naxian city, he overheard a conversation between two Naxians. They were speaking in hushed tones, and Bruno could tell that they were discussing something important. As he listened, Bruno realized that the Naxians were hiding a dark secret. They were facing a crisis, and they were unsure of how to deal with it. The planet's resources were becoming scarce, and the Naxians were struggling to find ways to sustain their way of life. Bruno knew that he had to help. He approached the Naxians and offered his assistance. At first, they were hesitant to accept his help, but eventually, they agreed. Together, Bruno and the Naxians worked to find a solution to their crisis. They experimented with new ways of farming, they developed new technologies to harness energy, and they found ways to conserve their resources. As they worked, Bruno realized that the Naxians' intelligence and creativity were incredible. He knew that they had the potential to solve their problems, and he was happy to help them find solutions. In the end, the Naxians were able to overcome their crisis, and they were able to sustain their way of life for generations to come. Bruno knew that he had played a small part in their success, and he was proud to have been a part of such an important moment in their history. Chapter 9, The Quest. After spending many months on the Naxian planet, Bruno began to feel restless. He knew that there was still so much to explore and discover in the universe, and he longed for new adventures. One day, he received a message from a distant planet. The message was from an alien race that was facing a crisis, and they needed Bruno's help. They had heard of his travels through the universe, and they knew that he was the only one who could help them. Without hesitation, Bruno set off on a new quest. He traveled through the stars, facing many dangers and challenges along the way, but he was determined to reach the distant planet and help those in need. Finally, after many long weeks of travel, Bruno arrived at the planet. He was greeted by the alien race, who were grateful to see him. They explained their crisis to him and begged for his help. Once again, Bruno worked tirelessly to find a solution to their problem. He drew upon all of his knowledge and experience, and he used his creativity and ingenuity to develop a plan. Together with the alien race, Bruno worked day and night, and in the end, they were able to overcome their crisis. They were grateful to Bruno for his help, and they honored him as a hero. As Bruno prepared to leave the planet, he knew that he had made a difference in the lives of the alien race. He felt proud of what he had accomplished, and he knew that his adventures through the universe were far from over. Chapter 10, The Discovery. As Bruno continued his journey through the universe, he came across a strange and mysterious planet. The planet was unlike any other he had ever seen before. Its atmosphere was thick and hazy, and the sky was a deep shade of purple. As he landed his spacecraft on the planet's surface, Bruno felt a sense of unease. He knew that he had to be careful, as he had no idea what dangers lurked on the planet. As he explored the planet, he came across a strange structure. It was made of a material that he had never seen before, and it seemed to emit a strange energy. As he approached the structure, Bruno felt a strange sensation wash over him. He felt as though he was being pulled towards the structure, as though it was calling out to him. As he entered the structure, Bruno was amazed by what he saw. The walls were covered in strange symbols and hieroglyphics, and there were strange artifacts scattered throughout the room. As he examined the artifacts, Bruno realized that they were all related to space travel. There were star charts, navigation instruments, and even spacecraft designs. It was then that Bruno realized that the planet was not just a strange and mysterious place, it was a hub of knowledge and technology, a place where ancient civilizations had explored the stars and left their legacy for future generations to discover. Overwhelmed by the discovery, Bruno knew that he had stumbled upon something truly incredible. He vowed to explore the planet further and unlock its secrets, in the hopes of uncovering the ancient knowledge and technology that lay hidden within its walls. Chapter 11, The Battle. As Bruno continued to explore the mysterious planet, he realized that he was not alone. There were other creatures on the planet, and they did not welcome his presence. It started with small skirmishes, as the creatures tried to scare Bruno off the planet, but as he continued to explore, the conflicts escalated. and soon he found himself in the midst of a full-blown battle. Bruno had never been in a battle before, and he was terrified. The creatures were fierce and powerful, and he knew that he was no match for them. But he refused to back down. He knew that the knowledge and technology on the planet were too important to let the creatures keep him away. So Bruno fought with all his might, using his spacecraft and weapons to defend himself. The battle was long and grueling, and many times Bruno thought that he would not make it out alive. But in the end, his determination and bravery paid off. He defeated the creatures and was able to claim the knowledge and technology on the planet for himself. As he left the planet, Bruno knew that he had been forever changed by the battle. He had learned to fight for what he believed in, and he had gained a newfound sense of courage and strength. Chapter 12, The Celebration. As Bruno left the mysterious planet behind, he felt a sense of accomplishment and pride. He had faced his fears and overcome incredible obstacles, and he had emerged victorious. As he returned to the planet where he had met the kind aliens, he was greeted with open arms. The aliens had heard of his bravery and wanted to celebrate his success. They threw a huge celebration in his honor, with music, dancing, and feasting. Bruno was overwhelmed by their kindness and generosity, and he felt a deep sense of gratitude towards them. As he sat among the aliens, Bruno realized that he had found a new home among the stars. He had discovered a world of knowledge and technology that he never knew existed, and he had made new friends who accepted him for who he was. As the celebration came to an end, Bruno knew that he had to return to Earth, but he promised to come back and visit his new friends, to continue exploring the universe, and to share his knowledge and experiences with others. And so, with a heavy heart, Bruno said goodbye to the aliens and blasted off into the stars, ready to continue his journey as an astronaut and explorer.